Hello and welcome to Andy Collier Talks Cricket Memorabilia. I am not Andy Collier, I'm Rodney Ulyate, and I've just barged into Andy's flat and forced him at gunpoint to do something he's been a bit too modest to do himself on this channel to date, which is to talk about his book, Across the Oceans. Andy, do precisely that. Tell us what it's about.
What it's about? Well, it's from 1861 to 1962. It charts the every tour and every ship. I found near enough every ship on the tour they sailed in. The inspiration for that was a fairly shorter version, which had 32 photographs of ships in that went to Australia. I've actually found 120 that they used, so I was quite pleased to find those. I knew there would be some more, so I was quite pleased with the final outcome.
Now tell us a bit about the genesis of the book. What inspired it? Whence your interest in this particular angle?
Well, I think I've just gone across that with the little book that was produced with only 32 ships. That was the inspiration, although I had the thought about this book probably a few years before that, and then that book sort of trumped it, so I thought I'd put that on the back burner. And I couldn't, so I did it, and that was it really. So I thought, right, I'm going to do it, and I did.
And any insight into the writing and more pointedly the publishing process? I know you had a bit of trouble with certain established publishers.
Well, there weren't very many people that were very interested in doing it, to be perfectly honest. It was
Feel free to name names.
No, I won't name names. A bit too niche to be any popularity in it. So anyway, I thought, right, that's it. So I ended up having to publish it myself, which was okay. I was going to do 200 books. So I went along to a place in Sussex and said to them, look, can you do my book for me? How much do you think it'll be? They said, I'll be about £4,000. So back I went. 6 months later I turned up with the little stick, and after a couple of days they phoned up and told me it was going to be £9,000, which was a bit of a shock. So I thought, well, that's the end of my book. I'll never be able to afford £9,000 just to publish my book, so I put it on the back burner for a bit. But then Bridget came home and said, oh, she knew a chap just up the road who was
Bridget, your wife?
Bridget, my wife, yeah. And she said she knew a guy that was a bookbinder. So anyway, I went to them and they kindly published it. I only got 100 done in the end, which still cost me £4,000. But when it was finally published, I went along there and got the boxes of books to carry home with me. And got them home, started to sign them, all excited. I got to the 4th copy and it was upside down, back to front. It was just an absolute nightmare. So anyway, fair play to the printers. They've done them all again, and we have this book now in its form. So it's been a great, yeah, I'm very proud of it, I have to say. It
was nominated for and came pretty close to winning a major award, didn't it?
It was, got nominated for the Book of the Year award, MCC, and the Cricket Society Book of the Year award, which came probably about, I don't know, 7th or 8th probably. Didn't get in the top 6 anyway, but got to the last 12, and beaten by Jeff Lemon, who was written a book about Steve Smith's Men. Steve Smith's Men, and his introduction to carpentry with sandpaper.
Now, it's somewhat astonishing that no one's ever taken this angle before. Anyone who's read a bit about cricket history will know that often the journeys, the travels, the travails, often more interesting than the cricket itself, at least more interesting to read about. So perhaps you'd like to share with us a few spoilers you happened upon, some anecdotes. And
well, there's some fascinating stories that went into it, I have to say. There's a lovely story with Bobby Abel, where he set a trap for one of the players. I can't think who that is at the moment, but he set a little trap to make out that there were rats in the cabin. There probably were rats in the cabin, but they didn't think they'd get in first class, but they did. And then there was a nice one with Thomas Cook was on one of the tours, 1884 I think, and they were where were they, Portside, somewhere like that, to had to wait a week for the mails to come through. So Thomas Cook, who's a famous travel agent, as we know, he arranged for them to go to the pyramids. I think it was about £5 for the trip or whatever. So he arranged a trip to the pyramids, and a thoroughly good time was had by all. There's all sorts of little knickknacks, but some of them actually later on didn't go round the Bay of Biscay because it was a pretty tricky place to go, the Bay of Biscay, very choppy, and most of them on the early tours fell ill going around the Bay of Biscay, so they ended up sort of going across Europe and then catching the boat the other side in Italy and Naples and things like that, places like that. So there's all sorts of anecdotes really, but I think this book really, I know I've been passionate about the ships and everything, but it probably goes back to my childhood when a friend of mine had a boat in his back garden, and what we used to do in the cricket season or the football season, we used to jump in his boat and we used to row to Australia or row to Old Trafford to watch the football and watch the cricket. And that's probably where the first seeds were sown for this book, when I was probably about 8 or 9, I think. I sort of fell in love with ships as well, and it's grown into this. So that was a bit of a, you know, just a general ongoing of the interest in shipping.
Have you done much sailing yourself? Have you ever been on a major voyage?
Well, yeah, went on a Caribbean cruise, and that's just before I started doing the book. Actually, we were on the Caribbean cruise, and
might there be a connection between the?
Well, yes, quite. I mean, I said to the captain, look, it's a P&O cruise. I said, look, I'm going to do a book on the ships and stuff that took all the England teams to Australia. He said, oh, he said the Canberra. I said, that was one. I said, yeah, that was the last one they took in '62. So he was quite keen on seeing the book actually, but obviously I'd never seen him again. It was yeah, quite an interesting conversation I had with the captain of the ship. He signed my book that I had on there at the time. Yeah, and it was a very interesting journey, I have to say, and that really sort of set in stone that I was going to write the book.
Well, it certainly has the Rodney Ulyate stamp of recommendation. Not the least of its appeals is the quality of the photographs in it. You've got some astonishing ones in here. Many of the originals are actually scattered around your house. And I thought it might be a good idea to take a little tour and show the viewers at home a few of them.
Good idea. Well, the earliest one, the earliest ship I've got is 1920, so that's my earliest one. And I can show you the first one that kicked me off on the collecting front of the shipping, and go from there. Should be an interesting little trip round.
Let's do that.
Okay. Right, we're now coming to the inner sanctum where some of these precious items are stored. This was the very first ship that I collected, which was 1924-25 to Australia, captained by Arthur Gilligan. There's a team above, which is in the book, and also there's another one up there. Which one's that? It's Meloja, I think, that one. Meloja. These are all in
let's pause on 1924-25. Sure. Anything in particular about that voyage that really strikes you? What do you think of first when you think about that trip?
Well, I think first about that is that I got that off David Frith. That's the first thing I think about. But the first thing I think about is them all gathering at Tilbury docks, already round there, and then just getting on the ship and getting into the first class cabins that they were all appointed. And then hopefully they weren't going to be seasick, which didn't often happen. But yeah, so that's not very big ships, to be honest. Nothing like the Titanic or anything like that.
No.
But there's a nice rare photograph there of the boys in their civvies.
Can you identify all of them? Talk us through each one. Let's go.
We've got Gilligan in the front, Hobbs, Strudwick, Sandham, Woolley. That's Toon, the manager. No, that's not Sandham, that's Johnny Douglas, beg your pardon. There's Sandham. Goodness me, I can't really see it. Waddington? No, not Waddington. Percy Chapman, J.T. Hearn, Herbert Sutcliffe. Now I'm struggling to see out there. There's Kinnear, Maurice Tate, Patsy Hendren. That's Howell. We got Titch Freeman there, and that's Tilsley up the top there. So it's that one there. I'm just struggling to think who that was now.
Who'd you say the guy in the top left was?
Top left is Howell.
No, I mean the edition.
Oh, that's Tilsley.
Okay, and why was he not?
He probably obviously wasn't there to take the photograph.
Right.
So they brought him in later on.
Any idea where he might have been?
I haven't got a clue.
Okay.
I haven't got a clue.
All right.
But,
a very dapper group of fellas.
They were, yeah, for sure.
Okay,
group, yeah.
Moving on to the next one. What have we got there?
Yeah, that's the Homeward Journey on the Milosia, 1924.
So anything about the Milosia
Well, that's the
strikes
only thing
you?
about that is that, no, not really, it's just a slightly smaller ship, that's about all. APF Chapman, he wasn't on that because he went over to New Zealand to marry his wife, who he knew was Lowry's sister.
Okay. And moving a bit to the right, what have we here?
Well, that's 1928. That is On the Way Home, and that chap there is a chap called Ferguson, who I think he was a Surrey stalwart, really. He was a bit of a benefactor for Surrey, and he put on a dinner just before they got home. I think he boarded as they got on at Portside, and gave them a lovely dinner to appreciate their 4-1 victory in Australia. So that's quite a nice photograph there. Most of the team there. Got Les Ames. It's Toon again. Sutcliffe.
Toon was Wilfred Rhodes's great enemy, wasn't he?
He was one. He's quite well respected as a manager, I think, but a bit of a fascist one.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, Duckworth and what's his name? It's Hobbs, White. God, I don't need my glasses. Geary at the back there hanging on like an old monkey. Morris Leyland, Hammond, Patsy Hendren, Morris Tate at the back there. They're all there. Bit difficult to see when they're not in front of you. You know what I mean?
Also veiled in shadow, some of them.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Next one along there is the 1928 ship going out to Australia. That's a lovely one there. This one down here is the one coming home, which is the Ormond, and I've got a lovely menu signed by the team that was given to L.V. James, the captain of the ship, and also a ball that they used in the last game against Australian 11 at Perth.
And any good stories associated with the 1928-29 tour and the trips out on those?
I think they were fairly bland, really. They weren't too. They weren't going against the grain, as it were. They all behaved themselves fairly well, I think. So not really any major stories of 1928. Only that we won 4-1. Really.
There might be a connection between those two things. Yeah. Okay.
That's right. And underneath you've got lovely MCC 1936-7 to Australia.
Not as successful a tour though.
Not quite, nearly.
Might have something to do with the fact that a certain D.G. Bradman had come into his own by then.
And it didn't rain again in the last 3 tests. But anyway, there we are. But that's a lovely photo. That's probably my favourite photograph actually of Venice. Quite nice.
Very atmospheric.
And that was, that's the Orion, but the maiden voyage of the Orion was in 1935, where it took the MCC team, second team really, to Australia and New Zealand. So it was a fairly new ship in those days. But nice pictures, nice picture, very nice picture. And underneath that is a 46-47 team. And that was actually the first tour where they flew back home.
Oh right, okay.
On Sunderland flying boats.
Marks the beginning of the end of this way of looking at early cricket tours.
Yeah, that's right.
And what do we have on the stand here?
Oh, that's the South African tour, that one.
Oh right.
That's not the Australian one.
One for a sequel, I suppose.
That's right.
Might this one be more relevant for
this
our
one?
purposes?
Yeah, this is the Sova, which is Len Hutton's team. Another new version of the ship with only one funnel, so a new generation of ships going on there that took a little less time to go. This is a nice one round here, got a few extra signatures on it with Swanton and somebody like people like that. So that's another nice one. But there's another one I've got of that with just a postcard. That's a proper photograph of.
And anything eventful happen on that trip?
More than likely. I've got some photographs of them with their record players and what have you on the deck, swinging and having a good time. And I imagine that's the sort of time that Bill Edrich was having fun on the tours.
Right.
He had more notches on his bedpost than most people.
I see.
Put it like that.
I see.
Yeah.
And what do we have here?
That one's that's 48 to Australia. 48 Invincibles.
Oh, another one for the sequel.
That's
then.
right, for the sequel, yeah. That's the 19. You come around. That's the 35 side, that was the Orion, that's not in the book. It's in the book. Sorry, beg your pardon. Yeah, that's the maiden voyage of the Orion, 35. Quite a nice book. And this is first day practice after they landed in 1928. Harold Lyle, Staples, Ames, and Duckworth. That blazer pocket is just outside in the hall.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that.
Yeah, you got that. Lord Sheffield's team, but I don't think that was involved in the tour.
Right, you think the photograph was taken at a different time?
I think that was when he went on one of his world tours. And
what's written there?
What's written there? Well, it's Isis on the Nile. That's the ship, the Isis, the Nile ship.
Okay.
And there's documentation of him being on the Isle. On the Nile in the Isis,
right,
but on a separate journey altogether.
Okay.
So I don't think that's something to do with with that particular tour. That is up there. That's Lord Sheffield on the Huon Road in Tasmania.
That definitely was from the 1891.
That's right. Well, that was he stayed in Tasmania a little bit longer because he actually went over to Australia to try and stem the flow of his ill health.
All right.
He wasn't feeling too great, so he was hoping that the climate in Australia was going to do him good, which didn't really work. He still didn't feel very well when he came back.
I wouldn't feel very well if I'd spent the amount of money he did on that tour.
No, quite. But as we know, he left £150 for the Sheffield Shield for the.
So he did.
The 3 state sides to fight under, or fight over, should I say. And there's a lovely team. I've not seen very many team photographs of W.G. Grace's Lord Sheffield team. So there's one there, and it's got I've put a nice signature of Sheffield underneath. So that fits nicely into the book. Well, there's some artefacts here. Some artefacts are things that come off the ships. This is a lovely coffee pot from the Orion, which would have been the 30s ships. And this one here is a beer tankard from the Orontes, which would have been an early, there's 2 Orontes. The first one would have been 1903-4, and this is a beer tankard off of that ship, which is takes you back a bit. It's got some paint in there. So
how much would they be worth today? They must be.
Well, this is actually a Mappin and Webb coffee pot, but it's not silver. It's only sort of white metal, so it's probably. I think they cost me about 20 quid. I think something like that, but I don't think they'd be overly expensive. And this is a candlestick from the Osterley. Got the P&O shield on the front there, which is a nice candlestick. It's a lovely small poster there. This is a fire at Port Said. Beautiful colours in that mini poster. That's one of my favourite things. Head office, Fernchurch Avenue, London EC, West End office. Bonbon dish, or perhaps an ashtray from the Orion again there. And this one again here is which one's this? This is the Ormond ashtray off the Ormond. I mean, they must have sold millions of these ashtrays, because there's another one there, that's Ken Barrington's for the 200th Test match, but that's obviously a 1920s style ashtray.
They had enough smokers even in the 1920s to have a smokers v non-smokers match then, do you reckon?
That's quite right. I mean, you see pictures all the time with a fag on or a pipe sticking by the side of them. It was just the in thing to do. Smoking was...
And it wasn't necessarily considered unhealthy, was it?
Definitely not, no. Well, publicised as being quite a healthy habit in those days. That's why most of them died young, I expect.
Right.
This is a lovely, well seen and well used photograph of the Bodyline team. This is an Illustrated News original copy in 1933, so it's a lovely photograph there. So this is my earliest ship, which is the Osterley.
That's the first tour post-war.
Yeah, that's right. And there's a lovely one of them coming home, because both teams come home on the same ship, which is the Osterley again, which I haven't got, but that goes for plenty of money at auction. So that's my only 1920-21 ship at the moment. That's a lovely signed photograph of the 2021 side. Unfortunately missing Wilfred Rose, but...
And what about the Oronze over here?
Oronze, that is... well, that's a sequel job as well. That's
I see.
The Australian team.
It's good to know you've got so much material for the sequel, yeah. All right.
Yeah, there we are.
Well, we've by no means exhausted everything, have we? Because there's more beyond the inner sanctum.
That's right, yeah, we're coming out of here.
I do like the inner sanctum, though, you know. Would that all places were as pleasant to crap in.
That's right, yeah. No, fair play. So we looked at the George Duckworth blazer just now, and there's the blazer pocket that came from, I got that from a CMS auction when his daughter was selling some stuff off for CMS, and that came from there.
Nice.
Which is nice. So if you move along a little bit more, we've got the 1928 side there, which was Maurice Lagan's picture.
Oh, nice.
That one, which is quite nice. I also have the association with one of the players. This one up here, Patrick will be a bit annoyed that he didn't get that in his book of the 1912 series, but this is MCC in 1911 at the Adelaide Oval before Plum Warner went ill.
Yeah, there can't be many photographs of the team with Plum in it, can there?
No, that's right. That's Phil Mead's copy.
Oh, I see. Where'd you get that then?
That came from an auction. It was a complete wreck, really. I've tidied it up, a nice new...
Go on, tell us how much you spent on it.
Oh, I'm not telling you.
Okay.
But it's worth every penny.
No, quite.
You
It's
don't
a
see
beautiful
lovely
thing.
photographs like that with Sid Barnes.
No, quite.
Lovely photograph. And as you say, you don't get many team photographs with Plum Warner in it. And then we come across here to, again, 1911-12. And we see Warwick Armstrong bowling to Wilfred Rhodes. J.T. Hearn is this end. This was J.T. Hearn's copy. And Hobbs has already got out. So J.T. Hearn came in and joined Wilfred Rhodes.
It's always wonderful having the scoreboard in the shot, isn't it? Because you can pinpoint precisely the moment being captured here.
That's right. It's a fantastic photograph. It's probably one of my favourite photographs, actually. Led to believe that that is definitely Trumper there, fielding the cover point. So it's a lovely photograph. Melbourne 1911-12.
Yeah, almost panoramic. Back when the Melbourne Cricket Ground was still a cricket ground as opposed to a hulking steel stadium.
Yeah, that's right. And the fence gives it away as well. You've got nice fencing around there.
Very atmospheric.
It's a lovely thing, there's no doubt.
And although it has nothing to do with shipping, I love this right next to your front door.
Well, that is the famous Victor Trumper picture, but it's not. It's a rarer one because it's got the Victor Trumper printed underneath, but it's unfortunately not signed.
Oh,
but
right.
that came to me, and would you believe that was nearly green when I got that?
So what have you done to get it into its present state?
Basically.
Very well done.
Its existing frame, original frame, and there we have it.
Yeah.
1905 at the Oval.
It's amazing. No matter how many times you've seen it, it's always the centerpiece of any collection. It's the first thing that strikes you, isn't it?
That's right. Unfortunately, there's a bit of where the boards were at the back there that's got a bit of shining through.
Yeah.
But,
oh well, these things can't be avoided.
I've got to say.
Have we done these ones just above your living room door?
Well, this is the bodyline ship.
Right.
The Orontes. We've got Fully Shine round there, plus Arthur Maley and a couple of others. Tennis stars on there. So that's a pretty rare thing there.
What was Arthur Maley doing signing it? Did he travel with them?
He would have been,
in a journalistic capacity. I see.
Yeah, that's right. And this one here is the 1948 again. That is something to do with Ian Johnson, because the top left-hand corner, it's got Love Ian Johnson on it. The only thing you can say really at the moment about the voyage of the 1932 is that Harold Larwood was not a great traveller, and he described the journey on the ship as prison with good food. So he wasn't too enamoured at travelling, but ended up as we know, being an Australian citizen.
Have you stumbled upon any particularly good travellers, or did everyone suffer more or less alike?
No, I think they nearly all suffered, I think, to be honest. I mean, the ships are fairly small, and I've got some lovely postcards with the ships being tossed all over the place, and it's not surprising they were violently ill, mainly.
My hero Ted Peat is one of the few players I've read about who doesn't seem to have suffered Moldemare. His teammates write with some jealousy about how he'd be eating, you know, quite merrily, three-course meals, while the ship was being tossed head over heels on the high seas, and all the rest of them were hovering over the barricades.
He was a lucky man. I know George Hurst said that he fell in love with the Suez Canal because it's the only time it never moved.
Right.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Now, a great index or indication of the success of a book is that it should inspire a sequel. This one, Andy, is inspiring a sequel. I understand you're hard at work on one as we speak.
Well, yeah, hard at work, not quite, but it came to a bit of a grinding halt with COVID, unfortunately. But the natural successor to that book is going to be Australia to England. We've done England to Australia, so naturally it's going to go Australia to England. So that's the plan. But unfortunately, when the COVID struck, the computer started playing out, and my friend who fixes my computers couldn't come round, obviously. So it all come to a grinding halt in 1899, before computers were invented, obviously. Yeah, 89 and the Trumper years. So we've got the Trumper years and more to do, more after that. So, but unfortunately, before that, I haven't got much memorabilia involved in those tours. Got some, but obviously that was a bit more difficult to put things together on the memorabilia front. But got all the ships and stuff,
so
team photographs.
The second volume would cover every Australian visit to England.
Yes.
From 1868? Or?
Yeah, the Aboriginals were in there, yeah. We've got a nice
Until
one.
When was the last time they sailed over?
64, I think.
64, yeah. Okay, that's a good lot.
Yeah, it's quite a way, yeah. So there's
how many tours is that in all?
I think it's just on 30.
And how many more or fewer is that than went the other way?
There's a few. Well, obviously there was two tours in 1 year for one thing.
Is that true? Wasn't it the reverse?
There was two tours went in 1 year, didn't it?
Yeah, but that was to Australia.
Australia to England, yeah, that's right. So there's one less there coming this way, if you see what I mean. I think it was 35 tours on there, including the sort of second teams, I suppose, really. So every team that left England and touched down in Australia is in that book. And from Australia to England, they obviously started their tour in Australia, then they went to Hobart and Tasmania, and they come back to Australia, and then they went on to England. So it's a long tour, especially in the Bradman years. So they're away for 8 months or so.
Will you be covering those preliminary trips? I know they often went to New Zealand, sometimes on different ships.
That's right. Well, I've got some bits and pieces on that, but I've got enough really to make a good viewing of it. So I'm only really going to start from when they left Australia to come to England.
Right, fair enough.
Really. So that's going to be the basis of it. And hopefully I can, well, I'll probably do another 100 of them, I expect, because they're quite a popular book, as you know. The first book was due to be launched at the CMS meeting in Bristol. And when I went down to Bristol, I only had 11 left. So got to Bristol, launched the book, and in an hour they all sold out. So I printed another 15 hardback versions. Went to Lord's, all sold out within an hour. So it was fantastic, really, just to know that people really, wanted the story, and the book in book form as well, because we know books are getting a little bit difficult to sell. But
are you going to be self-publishing again? Or?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
The other people didn't want to know, so they missed out this time. So I did not that you'd make any money out of it. I mean, I'd do it for the love of doing it. So as we all do, really. It's only the big boys that make a bit of money out of it, but I shan't be going to any publisher, put it like that.
And are there any lessons in the course of the publication and preparation and research for this one that you hope to apply to its successor?
Well, it's hopefully going to be an easier transition. I know where I'm going to get them printed, blah, blah, blah. So it should be an easier transition. I hopefully won't have that problem of getting all the books printed and then being upside down. So I won't have that problem, so hopefully it'll be a bit smoother, and I know what to expect with the cost of it this time. So hopefully it's all going to run smoothly.
I hope so too. Thanks so much, Andy.
Cheers, Rodney.